Hello, everyone. It's Jen at Navigating Baby Loss, and welcome back to my series about breaking the silence of stillbirth guilt. If you listen to the first episode, you'll know that I'm diving deep into this topic that it's really close to my heart because it's one that I struggled with so much myself. It's one that lots of people try to pretend isn't happening. You stuff it down. You don't talk about it. But I know today is going to hit home for you. My question for you today is, have you ever listened to the thoughts that your brain has been asking you? Have you ever listened to those questions, like the ones that play over and over? What if I had done things differently? What if I had paid attention? Today, we're talking about those relentless questions you're trying to assign blame to yourself. I talked about this in my workshop that I did last week. I am doing a workshop series in October in honor of Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month called Life Beyond Loss. And for 4 weeks, we're going to dive into a topic each week, completely free. If you're not in there, what are you doing? Go get in there. Go to navigatingbabyloss.com/October to get yourself signed up. Completely free. I'll send you any replays that you've missed. What we talked about last week, I'm going to touch on a little bit today. And a lot of it is things that your brain is telling you. I went into the reasons why your brain tells you those things because it is a protective mechanism. Here's what I want you to know right up front. Your brain doing this to you does not mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you're broken. It's your trauma brain, because baby loss is trauma, trying to make some sense of something that just doesn't make sense. We're going to talk today about why this happens and what you can do about it. So let me paint you a picture. It's 3 a.m. and you're lying in bed. We all know that time on the clock because we've all woken up and seen 3 a.m. But your mind is wide awake, going through your pregnancy like it's reviewing evidence, like you're a forensic scientist that has to find a reason, no matter what. How about that day I was stressed at work? Maybe it was that day. I wonder if that was the day. No, that was 3 days before. It had to be something else. But maybe that contributed to it because I had heartburn, but I didn't call the doctor. Should I have called the doctor? Was that a sign? I was so excited on Sunday at my baby shower. Maybe I shouldn't have been. I was so excited, and here this was all happening, and I just put all of these people through something that wasn't necessary. Maybe I'll go back to that glass of wine that I had before I was pregnant. I'm sure that was it. I remember I went to my husband's class reunion. We had a good old time. I probably had more than one glass of wine. I slept on my back. I know you're supposed to sleep on your side, but I just can't. I rolled over and I woke up and I was on my back. I know it was that. Or how about I was moving? Why did we move during that time? Why did we have to move? Because that was not a good time to move. I shouldn't have even agreed to it then. But then, not only did I agree to moving, I lifted boxes. Does any of this sound familiar? Your brain has basically appointed itself a detective, a prosecutor, and a judge. And the case that it's trying to solve, usually at 3 a.m., is how could this have been prevented and who's to blame? But here's the thing, your brain isn't actually looking for the truth, it's looking for control because things are so out of control. And it can find something that you did wrong and then theoretically make it be wrong, have a reason, and then you wouldn't have to do it wrong the next time. But that's not how stillbirth works. It's not how life works, actually. And so, what are we going to do? So, here's the difference between logical thinking and trauma brain. Let me explain to you what really happens here because understanding this can change everything. This is something I had no clue of, but once I learned it, it made complete sense. When your brain is working normally, what we call logical thinking, it processes information, weighs evidence, and it comes to reasonable, logical conclusions. But trauma brain is different. Trauma brain is desperate, scanning for any threats, looking for patterns, trying to make sure that this never happens again. And when you are a logical thinker and pride yourself on being a logical thinker, maybe you're a type A person. This is crazy. Like, this is completely out of control for me. I cannot handle this being so out of control. I need to find out why so I can fix it. Logical thinking says stillbirth happens to 1 in 160 pregnancies. Most of the time, there's no clear cause and nothing could have prevented it. But trauma brain says, but what about that time? What about that time I was stressed? What about that symptom that I ignored? There has to be something I missed. Logical brain looks at facts. Trauma brain looks for someone to blame. Trauma brain will always find something to blame you for. Always. Because it's not looking for truth. It doesn't care. It's looking for control. Where can it control a situation where everything's out of control? And if there's ever a situation where everything's out of control, it's when you're going through what you're going through. So the stories that we tell ourselves, and I'm going to share some that I hear from moms all the time. Maybe you'll recognize some of your own in these, is the stress story. I was so worried about work last month. All that stress must have hurt the baby. If I had just been calmer, more relaxed, enjoying my pregnancy, maybe this wouldn't have happened. So I had this weird feeling one day, but I told myself it was nothing. I never called the doctor, but I should have trusted myself and called. There's the happiness story. I was so excited about the nursery, planning my baby shower, worried about what I was going to wear. How petty. How shallow of me. I should have been worried about much more important things, like the health of my baby. I am sure that I jinxed it. There's the body story. Other women's bodies just work. Maybe they take drugs, maybe they abuse their bodies, maybe they do all these things and they deliver healthy babies like it's nothing. Teenagers who have no resources. Do any of these sound like conversations you've had with yourself? I know I did. But these aren't facts. These are stories that your trauma brain is trying to tell you to make sense of something senseless. After I lost my twins, my brain went into full detective mode. I thought back to every single day of that pregnancy. And I was stressed. I was stressed at work. I was stressed at home. I had two little boys. I remember crying when I found out I was having twins. I was sure that that was the reason for a really long time. Just because two things happened around the same time doesn't mean one thing caused the other. I was stressed about work and home, and my babies died. But stress at work doesn't take your babies. I slept on my back periodically, more than I'd like to think, and my babies died. But sleeping on my back didn't take my babies. I was happy about my pregnancy and my babies died. But they didn't die because I was happy. And it took me a long time to understand the truth of it. It took me a long time to sort out the truth. And that is an exercise that I do with the moms I work with all the time. You can see it on their face. Like, okay, what is true about your situation? What could you have done? What did you have control of? What could have made a huge difference and saved them? Once you learn to separate the truth, you can take down the triggers, you can take down the guilt. So you might be wondering if this kind of thinking is so painful, what do we do about it? How do I make it stop? This is what I taught in the workshop last week, and we went really deep into this. If you missed it, you can still get the replay, navigatingbabyloss.com/replay. Go there now, and you'll get the replay plus any new videos that happened this month. But here's what I shared in that workshop. Your brain thinks that holding on to the guilt and the questions is its job because you don't have a physical baby to take care of, obsessing over what went wrong, how it can blame you. Your brain is trying to parent through this process of analysis and making sense of it. It's trying to protect you through blame, and it's trying to stay connected to your baby by suffering. And I subscribed to it for a very long time myself. But what happened and what I found to be true and what I want to tell you is that by doing this, it actually prevents you from honoring your baby, and all of your energy is going into guilt and blame instead of remembering the first time you felt them move, remembering the excitement of your pregnancy test, remembering telling your family, remembering your baby shower, remembering all of the decorations that you bought in there because you love them and because you were so excited. Those are still really good memories. Even though they're so painful, they're really good memories. And another thing we talked about in the workshop was the physical toll that this takes on your body. When you are constantly beating yourself up, blaming, worrying, replaying, analyzing, finding ways that you did things wrong and wishing you did it differently, your nervous system stays in that fight or flight mode, and it causes stress in your body. And lots of moms notice tension, headaches, tightness in your chest and shoulders, stomach problems, no sleeping, difficulty sleeping, to say the least, constantly exhausted, the brain fog, feeling just a general feeling of like heaviness. And that's not just emotional, that is truly a physical symptoms of your body carrying the weight of all this mental weight. Your body is trying to tell you that this pattern isn't sustainable. If you had caused it, that means you'd have some control. If you caused it, it means you could know that you could do better next time. And we all know there are no guarantees. If you caused it, then the world still makes sense and bad things happen for a good reason. But you didn't cause it. What if it was just random, awful luck? Then that means that terrible things can happen to good people who do everything right. And that's super scary. It's a place none of us want to sit, but we're all right there. So your brain would rather blame you than accept that sometimes there's no one to blame. So if you let your brain play detective forever, it will exhaust you. It will never solve anything. Think about how many nights you've spent replaying every detail of your pregnancy. How much energy have you spent thinking about those decisions and wishing that you had made different ones? And do you ever feel better or just feel more guilty and convinced that it was your fault? I'm guessing it's the second one because trauma brain doesn't look for peace. It's looking for control. And it'll keep you trapped in the cycle of self-blame forever if you let it. So how do we break the cycle? How do we get our brains to stop? In my workshop, we talked about the 3 steps to break the spiral, and I want you to walk through them right now and try it with me. When you're thinking that thought, I should have, I could have, I would have, things would be different if, I wish I would have. When you catch yourself feeling that, where is it? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Usually my clients say it's their chest, their stomach, the back of their neck, their lower back, sometimes their shoulders. Where is it? Don't try to change it. Just notice where it is because it will show up in your body. And then just know, like, okay, that's where it is. I can feel a physical manifestation of my grief in my chest right now. Mine's usually in my chest. And that'll do two things. It'll interrupt the thought spiral and bring your awareness to the fact that it's not just mental, it is physical. Your body is responding to these thoughts like they're true. The second thing is sort out the facts. Now that you've stopped that spiral, it's time to sort out what's actually true from what your trauma is telling you. So ask yourself, what are the facts? What could I have done? What am I making true that I can't prove? What am I just making assumptions about that aren't really true? And what would I tell a friend if I heard her thinking these things about this same situation? Chances are you would not talk to her the way you're talking to yourself. And the third step is create a different response. Now that you know where the physical sensation is, you've figured out where you feel it when you have these thoughts. Where does it show up in your body? You know it's there. Then you take a minute and you sort through the facts. The fact is, you can't change it. So now this is where you get to take your power back. And instead of letting that spiral continue, you can put your feet on the floor, take a deep breath, and say whatever you need to say to yourself. Follow up with a response. I should have called the doctor before I did. And then your response is, but I didn't have a reason to be alarmed. I was just there and he said everything was fine. I did the best with what I knew, but it wasn't my fault. Sometimes these things just happen. And if you can't even do that, just say, my baby knows I love them. And then get up, move your body, brush your teeth, go for a walk, stretch if you can. Do something because movement discharges the stress out of your body that it's holding. Redirect your energy. And instead of analyzing what went wrong, do something different. Look at your baby's picture, write them a little note. You're acknowledging it, you're understanding where it's coming from, and then you're choosing a response that just feels different and is willing to argue with your trauma brain. You were a good mom during your pregnancy. You are still a good mom now. The fact that your baby's not here doesn't change any of that. It doesn't erase any of the love and care that you gave them, and it doesn't mean that you failed. Sometimes terrible things just happen, not because you deserved it, not because you caused it, not because you weren't careful enough or didn't love them enough. Sometimes terrible things just happen to good people who do everything right. I know you want a reason, but carrying that blame is destroying you. And your baby doesn't need you to carry blame to prove your love. So if you're recognizing yourself in the things I'm saying, you don't have to figure this out by yourself. One of the most healing things about my journey was to find other moms who understood what I was going through. Moms who also had that 3 a.m. panic that they were responsible. The moms who understood the guilt and the endless questions and the desperate need to find a reason or someone to blame. That's why I've created the Always Loved Club, my membership community for moms who've experienced loss, where we can talk about all of this without having to explain ourselves. Be sure to join me in my October workshops. I would love to see you there. We're going to do more of this on the topics that are so urgent to stillbirth moms before we jump into the holiday season. This week, I am talking about handling comments from others. Next week, I will be talking all about rediscovering yourself. Who are you now since your loss? The last Thursday in October, we are going to talk about the upcoming holiday season and how to handle holidays, milestones, and special dates on the calendar because those are always hard for us too. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Remember, you're not looking for a reason, you're not looking for control. You're just looking to be okay. And you need to be gentle with yourself because you've been through enough already. I will see you next time.